What is going on, fellow web developers? My name is Tyler Potts, and in today's video we're going to be learning how you can take React JS and build this magic link authentication system using Stitch's new SDK. It's absolutely awesome and it makes this process super dead simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to be building this login form. For example, we're going to type in my email address. .com. I'm going to hit login. That's going to go and send an email to my email address. So let's hit refresh and there you go. We can then hit login. That's going to bring us back to our app where it actually authenticates us, checks us, logs in and redirects us to our locked private page. So you can see here we have a home and an account page. If we log out, it's going to log out. There we go, it refreshes back to the login page and here you are. So you can still access home because it's a public page, but if we try to go to our account page, you're going to see it redirects us back to our login page. If we go here and we say /account, you see it redirects us to login page because we're not currently logged in. And that's what we're building today, guys. So in this video, you're going to learn how to build a React JS application using React JS and React Router. You're also going to be using Stitch's SDK along with their magic links to build this authentication system. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay guys, so the first thing we want to do is head over to stitch.com and go to login at the top right. If you're already logged in, you'll see dashboard. So if you click on this, if you're not logged in, just log in. You can either log in with Google or an email address or whatever you want to log in with. So click login. Once you're in, you'll be presented with this screen. So as you can see, if you checked out my last two videos on Stitch, this was actually slightly different. They've updated the SDK, they've added a bunch of new features, and I'm going to go over a couple of them today. So the first thing we want to do is head into our redirect URLs. Now these are going to be the URLs. Once we try to log in, we send an email to our email client. We're then going to go, hey, where do we need to go after we've been here? This is where we're going to go. So this is going to be it. So we're going to say HTTP, and we'll be using localhost for this. Obviously, this would be whatever your app's called or your website's called, however you want to log in. We're also then going to say /authenticate, because this is where we want it to redirect to. We want it to go to authenticate to then check we are allowed and log us in. So this is going to be for the login and the sign up. We're not going to be using invite for this, but you could also look into that yourself. We're going to set these as default. Default just means if there's no other URL when you make your request, it will use this as the default one. I'm going to hit confirm. And that should, there you go. So we've got our localhost 3000 /authenticate. Now make sure this is all correct, because if not, you're going to have some issues later on down the line. This is correct for me, so we're all good. Now we need to head into our API keys. We're going to need all these keys. If you don't have these, you'll need to create a new one. So you've got your project ID, a secret, which we don't actually need for this video, and also the public token. Now when you're using the SDK auth, you can actually just work straight from this public token. It's dead simple, and I will show you how to use that. So just make sure this is here. If not, just create a new public token here. If I create a new one, you can see that one's there, and we can actually delete the old one. So let's just do that. There you go. So we've got a new SDK, or sorry, a new public token ready for us to use. Now the final thing is, with the new SDK, you have this SDK configuration here, and we can actually enable the SDK. The SDK gives you a bunch of different things you can allow. So you can actually set some permissions. So you can allow them to actually update, delete email, phone numbers, delete user details, manage the user data from within the SDK or the application you're building. We don't want that. All we want is the authentication of email magic links. If you also want to use OAuth, you can. You can also use this OAuth here. It's super dead simple and really easy to set up. So if you haven't seen my Vue.js version of these videos, it's slightly different now, but you can get the gist of how you set up the OAuth as well. It's practically the same. But for this one, we're going to be focusing on this here. And they also have these demo apps as well, as you can see here, SDK demo, to actually see how it works. And you can actually see the code of that as well. So we've got our magic links, and that's now enabled. So this is now working for the SDK. Obviously, it is a test environment. When you want to take this live, you want to do the same thing, but in the live side. We're going to stick to just having the test environment. Now we also need to set an authorized domain. This is basically like our course origin, where we want to allow the same origin policy. And in here, again, we're actually just going to copy this here, this little blah, 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 copy and paste. And that's what we want, because we're going to be working from everything from localhost post 3000. The best thing about using this SDK is you only need a React app. You do not need to have a backend like Node.js for this one specifically, which makes it dead simple to work with. Before, you had to use a backend to actually authenticate yourself. Now you can skip that and have the front end, and it's still super secure with all of as you can see here, all of the security measures that Stitch have provided for us. So this is now set up. We're all good. That's great. You can also head over to the docs here. So stitch.com docs/SDK/introduction, and you can see how you get started here. So we're going to need this in a second, but first, let's head back to our Visual Studio Code. Now I'm going to create a new project here. This is a fresh folder with nothing in it. Inside the terminal, I'm going to run npm create feet at latest, and I'm going to do the dot. The dot means create this inside of this folder and don't create a new folder for it. So once we hit enter, it's going to ask us what the package name is, and we're just going to call this Stitch. You can name this whatever you want. I'm just going to say Stitch SDK tutorial. There we go, hit enter. It's going to ask us what framework. Now you can do this with any of these, but we're going to be using the React specific SDK that they provide. So we can hit enter on React, enter on the variant, and there we go. Now we can run npm install, just like that, and now we'll install our node modules. While that's doing that, let's go back here, and we actually need this script tag. We need to use this script tag to basically, load Stitch. So what we're going to do is go into our index.html, go under our title here and hit paste. And that's basically all we need to do to have Stitch ready and loaded. But we also want to use the React SDK. So what we want to do is under here, we want to run this command here, npm install Stitch at Stitch /Stitch -react --save. So let's copy this, go back into here and run that command inside of our terminal. Now that's installed, we can go into our package.json and you will see the Stitch React up here, all ready to go. The other thing we're going to need is React's router. So what we're going to do is npm I React router or React router DOM, and that's going to install the React router for us. So just hit enter and there we go. That should be pretty good. Okay, so we've got that and our React app is ready to go. First off, let's just run this to make sure it's all working. So we're going to say npm run def, hit enter. That's going to start everything up. Wham, and click that. And here you go. You can see our feet app is running. Our count is all working. Everything is working, which is great. We are 100% right now. That's fine. And there you go. So that's working. Let's go back to our code. We can close this integrated terminal. We can shrink this down a little. And we're just going to remove some things we don't need. So I'm not going to be using app.css. We're going to put all our styling in index.css for now. Inside of our app, we can remove every single one of these for now. We'll probably re-add the use state later on, most likely. But we'll use that in a minute. We're going to delete everything from within here. And I'm just going to use this is known as a fragment or a JavaScript fragment, which means, you know, basically it's an empty diff or just nothing. But here we go. So inside H1, let's just say hello world, like that, hit save, go into our index.js, delete everything for now. And there you go. That should all be working. So our main.js, our app.js, it's very plain. We could delete this logo. We'll keep the favicon. There's no need to remove it. It'll just work. There you go. And there you go. You got hello world. Just a simple application. We're back to the bare bones. And the first thing we need to do, close our app, go into our main.jsx. And underneath this index or this index.css import, we're going to use some of React router. So the first thing we'll do is going to say import, and I'm going to say browser router as just router, and then that's going to be from React router DOM. We're also then going to import Stitch provider, so Stitch provider and init Stitch, and these are both going to be from at Stitch /Stitch React. So we want to create an instance to our Stitch. We're going to say Stitch const stitch is equal to, and we're going to say init stitch. Now we need to pass our public token in. Now you can store this in a .env file or wherever you want to, but for this tutorial, to keep it simple, I'm just going to go back to our SDK. I'm going to click on our API keys. I'm going to copy this public token and I'm just going to paste it in just like that. Dead simple. And now that will be working all set up. Now inside of this, so you can see here we have the React DOM create roots and document.element.id.render. So this is actually the new React 18 React 18 syntax, the new create root and the render function here, or method. And now inside the strict mode, we want to just provide a couple of things. The first thing we're going to provide is the Stitch provider, and then we're actually going to pass through our Stitch in here. And let's wrap our app inside of this. So we're just going to say, oh, not a fragment, please. Stitch provider, let's just backslash that. And there you go. This is also commented weird. Let's just bring that back, and that. It's set to, for some reason it was set to 2 spaces. You know, I like my 4. Gives a bit more room. But there we go. So we've got our Stitch provider. So Stitch is now wrapped around our app and we can start using Stitch. But what we also need is our router, because we're going to need to be able to basically, we're going to have to set some router guards, some private routes and stuff like that. And yeah, we need our router to work. So now everything is wrapped around our app and we'll be doing the rest of our stuff in our app. So this is now finished. We can actually just close this and head into our app here. And there's a lot of things we could use here. But let's start off with just our app. Our app in here. Let's also set this so it's tabbed out correctly. And let's start off. The first thing we're going to have is a navigation. So we're going to say navigation. And that can just be a single component we're going to create. So we're going to create a navigation component. We're going to pass through whatever we need. And there we go. We're then going to have underneath this our React DOM routes. So we're going to say routes. And then we're going to have a route. Let's just import this. Oh, let's just import React route so we have it. So we're going to say we need our route and a route, and that needs to be from React router DOM, just like that. We also probably going to need use navigate at some point. We probably won't need it just now, but that's one of the methods to programmatically change your route which you're on, so the page. And there you go. So we've got our routes. Let's actually add in a few routes in here. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to say route index path is equal to slash. So that's going to be our home page element. We're going to say it's home. We're going to create these elements in a second. We're then going to have a new route with the path equal to slash login. And this will have the element of login. Again, we will set that up later. We want an account route, so we're going to say route path is equal to slash account, and that will have our account in there. We're then going to have a route for where we authenticate, so we're going to say slash authenticate. So this needs to be the same as what we named in our redirect, authenticate. Yep, that's right. I for some reason doubted my spelling. And finally, we need a catch-all. So we're just going to say route path is equal to anything else. So we're just going to hit a star here. And we're just going to put a element is equal to, and we're just going to use a paragraph tag for this. And we'll just say 404. We haven't found that page. We'll just say page not found. 404, page not found. And there you go. So that is our routes all set. Oh, I need to close this route. We're going to need to modify this in a moment, but first let's create our navigation component. So let's create a new folder, call it components. And within here, we're going to create a new file and call it navigation.jsx for our JavaScript. And now we're going to need a couple of things. So we're going to say import nav link. So there's two different types of links within the React Router DOM, or two main links. You got link and nav link. Now nav link will allow us to basically have, well, from what I know, it allows us to have our classes, an active class. So when you're making a navigate, like an actual nav bar, you want to use nav link. When you're using just a random link, you know, like one which is just on the page, you just call it a link. And that's what I kind of get from the nav link and the normal link. So there we go, we've got a nav link, and we just want to say export default, and we're going to basically just pass our function straight through here. So we're just going to export this straight from our navigation, return a nav, kind of like this. We're not going to actually have all the URL wrap. We're just going to say nav link to, and the first one is going to be our home page. So we're going to say home. We're then going to have two more nav links. So I'm just going to say nav link, and this one will be to our account /account. And we'll just say account here. We're going to have another nav link to, and that's going to be login. And finally, we're actually going to have just a button here. And this button, I'm actually going to swap the login and account round quickly. And our button will just say log out like that. And I think that's all we need to do. We're going to need to style this all up, of course. So back in our app, let's import these. So I'm just going to create some space, say import navigation from navigation. Now, if you're wondering how all of this is autofilling, I'm using the React, here we go, 1 second, ES7 plus React Redux, React Native snippets. It's super useful, and basically it just works really well. So it allows me to just pull things in easily. And I'm also using Copilot as well, if people are wondering how, if I go, for example, import views, and okay, doesn't want to work. It's an on and off thing, but you'll see, like when I go to type saying, look, there you go. See this here? This auto correct spelling, the auto thing is being done by Copilot. That was hard to talk about. Anyway, back to our app building. So we've got our navigation. Let's actually have a look if this is working. Do we have errors? We do have errors. What errors? Home is not defined, of course. So now we need to create our home pages, and that's, so let's just create a new folder within source. I'm going to call them views, and we're going to have home.jsx, and this is just going to say export default. It's just going to be an arrow function which says return the home. This is the home page. We're going to copy this, create a new, or not a new folder, a new view, and we're going to call this account.jsx. Paste that in there. This is just going to say account. This is the account page. It is protected or private. There's a private page. We're going to need a new folder, a new file, sorry, and that's going to be our authenticate.jsx. I'm going to use the default for now. I'm going to say loading here because this will be when we're loading. Please wait while we authenticate your token. And one more is going to be our login. So we're going to say, login.jsx. And finally, we'll just say login. This is the login page. And there you go. So they're all the pages we need. We're going to obviously build upon them in a moment, but for now, let's just import all our views. So we're going to say import home and components home. Oh, sorry, that's not component. That should be views. We're then going to import our login. We're going to import our account, and finally our authenticate. There we go. So that should all be set. And now if we go back to the app, there you go. You can see we've got our home. We can go to our login page and our account page. So there you go. That's all working. Let's do the form on the login page, not actually get the functionality, and let's just get the form on there. So in here, we can actually delete this second one. We're going to add a form. We're just going to add actually, we don't need to add anything yet. It's not going to do anything. We're going to have an input of type, well, email, and a name of email. We do not need an ID. We'll have a placeholder which says, let's do something anime-esque, because if you've watched my channel for a while, you know I love anime. So we're going to say Naruto at ninjas.com. And there we go. That should be fine. I mean, I could put hidden leaf in there, but that's fine. We'll leave that there. That's right. We then just need a submit button. So we're going to say submit, and this is going to have the value of login, just like that. And now if we go back, you can see we have the login elements here. We'll style that up in a second. So we've got our account, a private page, our login, and our home page. So the home page and the login page will both be so the home page will be a public page, and so will the login page, because obviously if it's private then you'll never be able to log in because it's private. So you know how it works. Our account page is going to be our only locked page, but the logout button will only display when we're logged in. So we need to manage all of this. So you can see it's all displaying right now. We're going to come up later and actually hide account and login when we're not logged in, and then hide login once we are logged in, and just show account, logout, and home. So let's start on the login page, and let's just style everything up quickly. Let's go to our index.css and just give a few things a few styles. We'll start off at the top here. We'll just say start, margin 0, padding 0, and give it a box sizing of border box. And let's just say a font family of sans serif. I don't mind what it is. Again, you guys can style this up however you want, whatever works best. I'm just going to style it up how I think works. So I'm just going to get a body. I'm going to say text align center. A background color. Let's just give it a 1F2430. A color of white. There we go, and that's good for the body. So if we just save, have a look, there you go, it's a dark mode feature now. We're going to have our navigation bar, so we're going to add padding to the top, and we're going to say 24, or you know what, 1.5 rem. We're going to have padding bottom of 1.5 rem, and then we're just going to have a margin bottom of 4 rem. And there you go, so that's got a bit of padding there. Let's just style the nav anchor tags and the nav button. I'm just going to say margin 0.5 rem. We're going to have it color of green. What's a nice color? Let's just have a look. We'll just pick a random one. This green, no, that's too much. What did do crimson in the demo, but I think for this one we will go for something nice, deep pink. That's a good color. Text decoration of none. We don't want any underlines. Cursor of pointer because they're links, and a font size of 1.125 rem. And there you go. That's looking pretty good. The button's a bit broken, but that's fine. We'll fix that soon. Let's just go nav.active. So this active class, if we go here, we look at our elements, we highlight this, drop it down. You'll see there's a class of active on our login. That's because we're actually on the login page. And this is what the nav link does compared to just a link component. And if I click home, you'll see the home page now has the active class, login has the active class, and account has the active class. So it swaps depending on what page you're currently on. Let's go back to our console, go back in here, and this is what we're doing. So we're going to say if it's active, we'll just make the font weight 700 and maybe make the color white. Just that feels about it. There you go. So on login, home, login, account. There you go. Obviously, the logout button will not actually have an active state because it's just a button. We're currently on the login form page. Let's style up the form. Let's just say here the form, it will have a max width 480 pixels. We'll give it a margin of 0 auto. Actually 2 rem. We want some spacing above and below. So we'll add some margin there. We'll add a padding of 2 rem as well to give it some space inside. We'll give it a background color. We'll set this to an RGBA value of 255, 255, 255, 0.1. So it's a white, but it's super subtle, just to give it that darker gray or that lighter gray color. And then a border radius of 0.5 rem. And there you go. That's looking a lot nicer. Let's style our inputs and our buttons. We'll just want to basically reset. We're going to say there's no appearance. We don't want a border. We do not want an outline, and we do not want a background. And there you go. That's already looking better. You can see this is now, the menu actually looks pretty good. We just need to style that input properly. So let's go in here. We're going to say input of type, and we're going to check for an email. So if it's an email, we're going to give it a width of 100%, but actually a width of 100%. We want it to span the whole thing. We'll give it a padding of 0.5 rem the whole way around. 0.5 rem 1. No, the side doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Border, bottom, and we'll say 2 pixels. Solid, and we're going to make it white. We're then going to have a color of white. We will have the font size be 1.2 rem. We're going to have a text align center, so the text is in the middle. A margin bottom of 1 rem. And finally, a transition, because we're going to animate some bits on this, of 0.4 seconds. Hit save, go back, and there you go. So you can see that's looking pretty decent there. It's a simple little styling, but it makes it look better. We're then going to do the button. So we're going to say input of type, and we're going to say submit. So we're going to use a submit button here. We're then going to say border, oh sorry, not border bottom, sorry. We're going to have another width of 100%. Basically, we're going to copy most of this. These ones, not the border bottom, sorry. We'll need the padding, we'll need the color, font size, and transition. Oh, copy. There we go. We also want to give this a background color, and we're going to use the same color we use up here, the deep pink. There we go. Have a look. There we go. That's looking good. We'll give it a border radius too. So we'll say border radius 0.5 rem. There you go. It's a bit rounded. And we also need a cursor of pointer. Save. And there you go. So you got a cursor of pointer. Let's actually add a focus for our type of email here. So we're going to say email on focus. So when we focus on it, I just want to say the border color can be a deep pink as well. So deep pink. So now when we hover on it, you can see it changes to a pink color, which is nice. Submit, and let's add a hover effect for our button here. Type of submit. On hover, there you go. So it's just going to flip the colors around. Nice little animation there, and here we also have that. Perfect. So that's now working. Input's working. I think that's good for our styling for now. Let's just close the styling. Let's go back in here. So we've got our home page, our login page, and our account page. Now we want to start using Stitch. We want to say, Stitch, are we logged in? If we're logged in, hide the login button and show account and log out. Otherwise, do the opposite. Only show login and home. So let's go back to our code. Let's close login, close app, and go to navigation. What we're going to do in navigation is we're going to go in here, we're going to say import, and we're going to say use Stitch session from Stitch React. We're then going to go in here and say const session is equal to use Stitch session. And all this does is basically check if we're logged in. If we're logged in, this will be a value of the session value. Otherwise, it will be null. And we can use that to our advantage. So in here, we can say if it's not got a session and show this. So you can see here we say if there's no session, show the login page. So that should actually show for now. But we can do the opposite here. So we can say if there's a session and bam, show that. So you can now see the account is now hidden. We can do the same for here, session and bam, just like that. And there you go. Now it only shows the home and the login, but we can still get to the account page. We're going to block this by creating a private layout or private routes. And I'll show you how you do that in a second. So inside of our source folder, I'm going to create a new thing called layouts. Now you could probably put this in components, but I like to separate it into layouts. And we're going to call this a private route.jsx. So this is going to be our private route layout. And inside of here, we're going to want to write import, and we're going to get the navigate component from React Router DOM. We're then going to import import use Stitch session again, because this basically tells us if we're logged in or we're not logged in. So what we want to do is say export defaults. We're going to get children from this, so we're going to pass through some props, or our prop of children, which will be the elements we put inside here. And basically, we're going to say const, if I actually can type, const session is equal to use Stitch session. I did not want that nav bar there. Thank you very much. And then we're just going to say if we do not have a session. So if the session is null, we're going to return navigate to, and we're going to navigate home. You could navigate to, let's say, your login page if it's not, but for now, we're just going to navigate here. Actually, you know what? Yeah, let's navigate to login. I think that makes more sense. So if you try to go to a page but you're not logged in, it will redirect you to the login page. We're then going to pass through our children if not. So if this works, then we're going to have children. For example, the reason I put this in layouts because if it's a private route, you can also use this as a layout, and you could put some code around the children and pass them through this way. But for now, we're not going to do that. So you could have a separate header or whatnot. But I'm not going to go over that. I'm just going over the Stitch stuff today, and here we are. So this is all we need for our private route. The Stitch handles all the heavy lifting. Normally, you'd write some code in here to make a request to a database to check if you're all logged in, your tokens right, whatever else you want to check. But with Stitch, it's all done for you. It's super simple, and the SDK makes it so easy. So that's it. That's our private route. We now need to go to our app and actually add this. So our account is the only one which actually has a private route. So to use the private route inside of Element, what we're going to do is we're going to break this down. There's multiple ways you can actually use this, but I'm going to use this in the way I think is best. And I'm just going to say private route, and we're just going to put the account inside of here. Now, that's all we need for this. If we hit save, we go back and we actually try to go to account. So let's go back to account. You can see it's redirected us to the login page because your account is not accessible anymore. So that's it, that's protected. And that's all you need to do for your private routes. Every single route you need private, you can do like this. There's also something called an outlet, which you can use to wrap a bunch of URLs inside of one at once. I'm not going to go for that in this, but that's something you can look into if you're interested. If you have multiple private routes that you want to secure, you can do that easily here. Okay guys, so now we're inside of app. What we want to do is start creating our, or start adding in the functionality to log in, because we're going to need to be able to log in and do a bunch of other things. One thing we need to import from up here, we're going to say import use Stitch this time. So use Stitch from React Stitch. And this is going to be where we call our client. So inside of our app, we're going to say const client, which is our Stitch client, is equal to use Stitch. We then want to get our navigate. So we want to say navigate is equal to use navigate as well. We then want to call const handle login. We'll set this equal to an asynchronous function, which takes in an email address. And we then want to say const res, or sorry, we don't even need to do that. We could do a try and catch, but for now we're just going to say res is equal to await client dot session dot magic link. So we're going to be using magic links for this, not sessions. And we're going to say email dot login or create, and we can then pass in our email. So what we're doing here is we're saying, hey, Stitch, can we try to log in? If we can't log in, then create an account using this email. So if this email doesn't exist, we'll create it and then send an email address, a magic link to our email, the one we pass through, to be able to log in or create the account. We can then just say alert. We could just throw an alert in here and just say something along the lines of, also, we don't need this res. I don't know why I put it there. The res isn't useful. We could just put alert email has been sent to, and I'm just going to say the email address. And I actually want to do this as backticks. Backticks, delete that, do the template literal, and there you go. So we're just gonna we'll just added the variable into the thing there. There you go. So we're gonna make a request to our account. We're gonna say, hey, log us in. If that's successful, we're just gonna alert email has been sent, and then we're gonna go from there. Now we need to pass this handle login to our actual login route. So what we're going to do is say handle login is going to be equal to handle login inside of our login component or view. And then what we need to do is go over to our login page. We're going to create some functionality in here now to handle the submit, because we want to stop the page from reloading and stuff. So up in our default, we're actually going to get a prop, and the prop is going to be handle login. Now inside of here, we just want to say const handle submit, set that equal to a function which takes in the event. We can say e.prevent default. And just because I like doing that, I'm going to say stop propagation. That's it. There we go. Couldn't remember how you spell it then. Then we're going to get our email address, which is going to be from our target.emails, and that's why we've given it a name here. So this is going to find the email address in our elements, and then we're going to say handle login email. That doesn't need to be .value. Actually, no, it does, because it's actually going to get the element and not the actual value. My bad. So there you go. So that's going to get the value we pass in there. We then probably just want to give a little we just want to basically say it's happening. We're going to pass handle submit to our form quickly. So I'm just going to say on submit, we want to say handle submit, and we'll just quickly alert a work. Or no, we don't need to do it. We don't actually need to alert anything, because we've alerted something inside of our handle login. So that now knows here to say it's ready. So that will be all good. From there, what we want to do is go, well, this file's now done, basically. We don't need to use again. So let's close this. We're in our app. The next thing we want to do is we're going to need to handle our login out as well. So let's say console, let's do it underneath handle login. Const handle logout, and that's going to be equal to another asynchronous function. Or actually, let's use something from React here to help us out here. What we're going to do is we're going to say import use callback from React. Now use callback, as it says here, use callback will return a memorized version of the callback that only changes if one of the inputs has changed. That means it will create basically like a cache or a memorized version of our function to save memory, to save everything. And that way it'll be more performant. So we're going to say here it's equal to use callback. We're then going to say this is an asynchronous function, and we're going to say await client.session.revoke. So this, we're actually basically just going to say when we log out, cancel our session. We just want to destroy our session. We're going to say alert logged out, and then we're just going to navigate to 0. Now that just means refresh the current page. Now here, after I use callback, we want to pass what we're looking at to actually refresh. So what has to change for this to actually update? And that's going to be our client. So if our client updates, we then want to basically update our callback method here, our function. Now we're going to pass our handle into here. So we're going to say handle logout is equal to handle logout to our navigation. So back in our navigation, same thing. We're just going to grab our handle logout, and we're going to pass this as an on-click method to our logout button here. Hit save, and that should now work as well. Now we need to work on our authenticate page. The authentication is this is actually probably the biggest amount of work we need to do for this whole thing. So as you can see, most things on this is straightforward. Stitch handles all the heavy lifting. This one is the one where we have to put a bit more effort in, but to be honest, it's still not that hard. So let's go in here. We'll use a React use effect. So we're going to say from React. We're then going to import use Stitch from Stitch. We also need to get use session as well, because we're going to want to get the use Stitch session. We then want to say import use navigate to be able to, from the React DOM, to be able to change pages if we're not logged in correctly. So under here, we want to get our client, we want to get our session, and we want to get navigate, all from these elements up here. And we're going to say use effect now. So we're going to say use effect is going to be an arrow function, and we're actually going to pass through client and session. So we're going to call this use effect every single time client or session updates. And then we're going to check if the session, so we're going to say if we have a session, then we can navigate to our slash. So if we're logged in, it will navigate it. Or we could probably, let's move into our account because that's our private route. So if we have a session, we'll go to our account page. Otherwise, we need to actually check our token. So it means we're passing in a token and we need to check the token to make sure it's correct or authenticated. So we're going to say const token, and we're going to get the token passed inside of here. So this would be authenticate / something like this. You can see here with a token that gets passed through. And that basically comes from this. So when we added in our redirect URLs here, it's going to send this back when we try to log in with a token as a URL parameter. And to get that URL parameter, we're going to say URL search params, and we're going to say window.location.search.get token. So it's going to find the token we are passed from the browser or from Stitch. We're then going to say client. So this is where we're going to basically ask, Stitch's magic links if the token we've just sent is authenticated. So we're going to say token. We're then going to pass in a session duration in minutes. So this is how long you're logged in for, how long your session lasts. We're going to say 60 minutes. So after 60 minutes, your session will no longer exist and it will basically no longer exist. You have to re-log in again. You can obviously make this longer. I know 60 minutes, especially with a magic link, you won't want to go to your email every 60 minutes. So you can make this a lot longer. I normally leave it for 7 days. I think that's a nice time. But that's up to you. We're going to leave it for 60 minutes for this just because it's a quick time to be able to get to. You can put this as low as 5 and up to, I think, 90 days worth of minutes. But you'll have to check out Stitch's documentation, which is well written. And you can check that out. So let's just alert successfully authenticated, just to say, hey, we've successfully authenticated. Then we're just going to do navigate 0 to refresh the page, to then, which will then obviously redirect us to our account if we logged in successfully. If we didn't log in successfully, an error will be thrown and we'll see that error. So that should be good for our use effect, our client, and that. So as I said, this is the most complex piece of code in the whole thing. We just need to basically check if we've got a session. If we don't, then we're going to check for a token. Once we've got our token, we're going to say, cool, let's just authenticate that token. If it's successful, here we go. Now I'm trying to think if we're missing anything here. I think we're actually good. I think everything is now set up and we can give this a quick test. So let's try it. So let's just make sure all this is good. Go to our Feet app, refresh, no errors. That's a good sign. So we're going to enter in my email address here, and this email address has to be the one I logged in with Stitch with, because basically it uses the email you're logged in with to verify it's you for testing. When you go to production, obviously this will accept any email whatsoever. So I'm going to hit login, and that's now going to say email has been sent to tylerpotts@gmail.com. Perfect. Let's go over here, refresh. You can see I've put in at test.stitch.com, but you can actually drag this into your primary inbox and it'll always come through to your primary inbox. Obviously, I just don't want to show you what's in my inbox. There's a few emails in there, hence why I'm searching for it. So in here, you can see you get your login request to my first project. Now, you might want to change the name of this. To change the name of this, you can go in here to your project settings and change the project name right here. And now allow you to do that. You can also change your email templates here. You can see this is it. You can edit this stuff. But if you want extra editing, you just need to contact, as you can see here, contact Stitch, and now allow you to do some custom stuff. And there you go. So we've done that. Now let's hit login. You can see this is going to redirect us to Stitch at the bottom there. So if you have a look at the very bottom here, when I hover over this, it says test.stitch.com/v1 magic links redirect with a public token. So let's hit login. That's going to redirect us from there back to our application. So when we click OK, you can see we're now logged in, and we can go to home here. We can even go back to login if we wanted to, although that's pretty pointless because we're already logged in. It is a private account, and we can now access our account. If we hit log out, hopefully logged out, And there you go. We've now got this, and we can no longer access our account again. So you can see how dead simple the Stitch SDK is with React. It makes it so easy and straightforward. But if you want to know more, you can head over to the client SDK here and have a look at this. So you can see this is actually a lot of the stuff we've done here. It's pretty straightforward. You can see there's some extra configuration as well. If you want to up the login expiration, so if you want the link to, let's say, only last 15 minutes, you would write 15 here. Same with a sign up one. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, do not forget to leave a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and leave any comments down below. If you have any questions or anything like that, leave them down below. If you get stuck or you have any errors, feel free to join my Discord community where we will try and help you. The link's in the description. Hop in, there's some help chat, so there's a help web chat if you want to help with this project. Be like, hey, here's the video link to the video I'm stuck on, here's the code and here's the error I get, can you help? And someone will help you if I'm not around. If I am around, I will obviously hop on and say, hey, this is how you fix it, or oh no, I don't know how you fix that, let's figure it out, and then we can figure it out. So guys, thank you for watching this video. Do not forget to check out Stitch, leave a thumbs up, all the things I already said I'm repeating myself, and peace out.